school. I know that St. Landry right now is full out virtual. I know that I saw where the sheriff's office was opening. Yes.
Is there anything, any accommodation for parents who may need to bring their children to school?
Not now. We have to be real careful to maintain those static groups on a campus. So our goal is to get our pre-K through 5 in front of their teacher as quickly as possible. So those are the grade levels at which our employees may need someone to watch over their children. So those kids will be back in school face-to-face 5 days a week sooner rather than later.
How about masks? Let's talk about masks right now. Will anybody be exempt from wearing masks?
So we have a process for that. If you have a doctor's reasoning that you could not wear a mask, a health condition, we actually have a form that the doctor would fill out, and we would come to the minimum would be a face shield. So we know that mask is where we go, but if you have a health issue that has been documented by a doctor, we're going to work with accommodations to have a face shield. But we do have to have something to protect our students and vice versa, our staff.
I know I've left my house without my mask every so often. Will the school system have masks on hand and PPE on hand?
We're very fortunate that Homeland Security support the school system. They donated over 32,000 masks, which we have on hand, a cloth mask. So each student will be given one if needed with no problem. We actually have extra for the buses, so that way a student will be able to get to the bus. Like you said, you forgot your mask, but we will have a backup plan because getting our kids to campus is very important. And we don't want a kid to get to the bus stop and think, I can't go to school because I don't have a mask. So each bus will be equipped with extra masks. We also have each cloth mask for each teacher and face shields upon request. On top of that, each school will have a 2,000 disposable mask to where if a parent is in a car and forgot it because they ran out their house, the parent can come in to check out their child. We want to provide as much as we can out there to get our kids and our staff, parents, everyone back safe.
Discipline is always an issue in the school system for any policy when it comes to these new policies with masks and social distancing. How will they be enforced? Will there be any consequences?
We are absolutely charged with making sure that we're keeping all students and employees safe. So we will expect that our school leaders make sure that there's compliance with what those recommendations are. So the masks piece, we certainly will require those students to wear a mask with a medical exemption, like she mentioned. The Louisiana Department of Health in their latest guidance recommended a face shield with perhaps a cloth covering at the bottom. But yes, there certainly will be conversations with parents, perhaps removal from a static group if someone is not complying with those very important recommendations.
Mm-hmm. Will attendance policies be changed at all this school year? Say, for instance, someone in their family tests positive, they have to quarantine, or they are symptomatic, they have to quarantine.
Situations that will be on a case-by-case basis. I mean, we're going to have to be flexible in so many ways to accommodate what families go through, what employees go through. So yes, there will be flexibility in those things.
Will that be for teachers? Will that be for teachers as well? Say a teacher has to quarantine, do they risk losing pay?
So what will happen with the quarantine, the government has issued 10 extra days to December 31st. That does not touch their sick leave or their personal leave. And so each teacher or faculty member, actually employee of our system, is given 10 extra days for those quarantine purposes.
Okay. Moving on, I want to talk about facilities. Who is in charge of cleaning up in the classrooms, in the school? Who's going to be doing that?
Since closures in March, our custodial staff have been receiving training, and we've set up checklists and requirements and schedules, and that started as soon as schools closed and has continued during the summer. There'll be a great deal more required of all employees. All of us have to just step and go above and beyond with this situation. Teachers, absolutely as well, in their classrooms and in helping to disinfect after a particular group of students leave. Again, we've provided everything that they need to be able to do that. But it's going to take custodians to do a lot more than they've been accustomed to in the past, yes.
Mm-hmm. Teachers are often like the unsung heroes in our society. They often are asked to do a lot more than they are required to do to begin with. Is this going to be a situation where a teacher is going to have to be paying out of pocket for cleaning expenses?
No, we've provided all that and will continue to provide what they need to keep their teaching and learning environments safe.
Are you able to give us any figures? Are you able to give us any figures how much money the school system has spent relative to previous years when it comes to cleaning supplies because of the pandemic?
I can't tell you specifically on the cleaning side. I know that we've received, of course, $10 million with CARES Act. Our portion of that outside of indirect cost and non-public portions came to about $6.5 million. We've received another about $1 million of GERF money as well. But we've spent a substantial amount of money on hand sanitizer, paper towels,
Gloves.
all of
Temperatures,
those.
scanners.
Yep.
Yep.
Thermal cameras, thermometers, yes.
I want to touch on the screenings coming up in just a bit. But have there been any upgrades to the facilities? Like you talked about the scanners. What else is being done in the facilities? Is there signage to limit traffic in a certain way? What's being done to promote hand washing, social distancing?
Established same signs, so same signage that will look the same on every single campus. As far as signs saying, please wash your hands from the restrooms, the fact that it says on the outside of the door, it's disinfected regularly outside the facilities due to visitors, limiting visitors. So we created a large variety of signs that look the same on every single campus as a reminder, social distancing, things like that. So all those will be placed all over.
There's a lot of concern with COVID-19 because it's airborne. What about the HVAC systems in the schools? Are those going to be disinfected or cleaned regularly? How's that going
So
to work?
before we shut down on March 13th, every air filter has been changed. After all the rooms were cleaned, every air filter has been changed. So when the teachers walked in today, all that is fresh and new in every classroom and in every facility. We do have an HVAC contract that does include the regular maintenance and changing of those filters.
How often? Okay, how often?
It's the minimum of quarterly.
Quarterly. Okay.
Our system has been
Okay.
on a 3-month rotation schedule. Particular schools done every 3 months, but we worked with HVAC folks to make sure that ahead of everyone reporting that district-wide we had taken care of filters.
How about outdoor spaces on campus? Will they be utilized more so than usual? I know we're in South Louisiana. It's not always nice to get outside this time of year.
Do that, absolutely. Outside of the heat that you just mentioned, yes. I mean, when I was a classroom teacher, I taught very good lessons under a big oak tree next to my classroom. So learning can take place anywhere. I think that's an opportunity for some of our children to really spread out outdoors and sometimes remove that mask if they're able to maintain that 6 feet of social distancing. So yes, we encourage that.
And any spaces inside buildings, are there any spaces being repurposed that might not be able to be used in the pandemic era? Are they being repurposed for education?
Gymnasiums can, auditoriums can. We're not recommending cafeterias at all, although those will be empty as far as for where students would normally sit, but because that's where food and things are prepared. But any large space that our administrators with their school staff can get creative with, we encourage them to do so, yes.
We've had some questions about bus drivers. We've done some stories about transportation and how that's going to look different. I don't want to ask about that, but what about the bus drivers? What are you telling them in terms of enforcing social distancing and the mask mandate? How can they do that when they're driving? Will there be bus attendants maybe?
Have aides on those buses. Ms. Gardner spoke a little bit about the mask. We didn't want a bus driver to feel that he or she needed to leave a student at the bus stop because they didn't have a mask. So we're going to make certain they have those disposable masks so that they can pick up every child. But they certainly will have to monitor that. And as far as for the seating, we are requiring that bus drivers turn in seating charts. That's really important for contact tracing that we may have to do in the event that someone tests positive or displays symptoms. So that those seating charts will be developed and maintained.
We touched on daily screenings a little bit. So before a student comes into the building, they're being screened at the entrance to the building. Is that how it will work?
Recommendation. When the Department of Health and LDOE started giving us guidance. And then after some consideration, they changed that recommendation to avoid, first of all, congregation of students waiting to come through thermal cameras at entryways.
Okay.
Also, they felt that students coming off of buses or out of hot vehicles, that it wouldn't be an accurate check at that time. So the recommendation that came later in the summer was that we allow students to come in, they report to first hour. All of our teachers will be equipped with a digital thermometer, and they will check the temperature there. If a student has a temp at the initial check, they'll be just moved aside, wait 5 or 10 minutes, rechecked at that time.
If they do have a temperature, for instance, what will happen to them? They should be isolated within the school. Where will they go? How will that happen?
They will be brought to an area in the school that will just be to house those students. And a parent will be called to come and get them. The nurse or an administrator will ask the parent to come and remove the child. We also will have a form to be able to track. We've sent this child home. We need to follow up with this child. We need to tell when the child can come back. All those procedures will be in place.
And will daily screenings be kept? There will be records of that as well?
Yes, so just this past week started advertising for additional nurse positions within our district. I felt that that is a great need. We're advertising right now for 4 additional RNs. With those 4 RNs, we are able to put a nurse full-time on every campus, with the exception of the Career Center and EJ Sam, which have very small student populations. Those and ECA, a nurse will share those 3 campuses. But for us to do this right and responsibly, we need a nurse on every campus all day to keep track of the documentation and of who was sent home when and at what time can they come back, follow up with parents and offer support. So I'm really, really pleased that we'll be able to take that off of our administrators' plates and off of school staff's plates and leave that in the hand of a medical professional.
And those 4 positions, those are additional positions?
Those will allow us a full-time nurse on all of our campuses. Yes.
Okay. Moving on, I want to talk curriculum, so I'll have Dr. Rabelais chime in here a little bit as well. Can we talk about the online academy? I know the deadline was this week. Where are the numbers? How many students are enrolled in the online academy so far?
Important to note that we had about 5,000 that were enrolled and confirmed. So that's about where we are right now. We had additional applications, but either they did not confirm or we'll have to revisit and make sure that, again, with the moving of the start date, if those parents do want to commit, if there's a further conversation there, it gives more time to process and think about the options that are available to parents. But right now we know we're at around that 5,000 applied and confirmed. And then there's several more that we still need to find out where they are in terms of commitment, and they will have the option, if they applied but did not confirm or commit, to return to their base site. So there'll be some more conversations between some of those potential applicants that are still out there.
And that 5,000 number, how does that compare to years
Much higher than years past, yes. I mean, historically we hover around 200-300 for LOA numbers. So with that, I mean, we knew it was going to be a rise, so that was to be expected. This rise, however, we will have to utilize, the resources on campuses to make sure that we're able to accommodate and to make sure that we're able to do, a sound job of providing support to those LOA students.
The deadline was Monday. Has anything changed with that, with schools being pushed back at all? If a parent wants.
No, the deadline was August 3rd. It remains August 3rd. If folks want to call and perhaps get on, we set a waiting list. We'll start school and see where things fall as far as for staffing. There's a lot of things that we have to manage. We need to make sure that we're putting students in the correct online courses so that if and when they return to their base campus, those courses and credits can transfer over. So no, there's no extension at this time on the deadline.
Any accommodations for the students who will be transitioning back? I know some parents have asked us about block scheduling and if there are any accommodations because they might be behind they're worried about.
I mean, and that was one of the original conversations, one of the things we wanted to make sure parents understood, especially what you're referring to in high schools. That's where it's going to be felt the most. Middle schools, elementary, it should be, aside from some curriculum alignment and making sure we have a academic plan to help with some of the curriculum issues that may be there. But for our high school students that are going from a 4 schedule to a 7 schedule, we're we're going to still try. For example, if a student completed 50% of the class online and they want to go back face-to-face in that same class, we are going to try to get them back face-to-face with the teacher based on the completion that they've met, the percentage of accuracy in the course, and we're going to still try to be diligent in trying to connect them with the teacher face-to-face upon their return. So we know that's going to be a future, transition down the road that we're ready to tackle, but we're willing to have that conversation and try to get those students back in face-to-face as much as we can.
And looking beyond high school, looking at college, some courses, students are depending on for admission into college, like AP courses, or even in courses where you can get credit, TOPS credit. Are there any remedies available for students who might be worried that they're now going to be falling behind because they might be choosing to go virtual for their own health?
Graduating juniors and seniors, we will absolutely do everything we can, and that's going to be part of our action plan, is making sure that parents and students understand exactly like what you're talking about, the track towards graduation and what could or could not be impacted based on that decision. 100% we're going to have those conversations. For other students, we try to be transparent up front through our LOA Q&A and forums that we had and FAQs that were put out, that there are some select AP courses, and we made sure that the AP courses that we offered online in Edgenuity with LOA, that we do have, again, those AP classes offered face-to-face in the district. So again, there is some alignment there between what is offered back at a base school and what is offered online. Honors classes, dual enrollment, we are not able to offer on Lafayette Online Academy, but again, that's a decision, that a parent has to make, and their student, had that information and can kind of plan to move forward.
Yeah, tough decision. Yeah, tough decisions for some parents and families there too. With the Lafayette Online Academy, you have thousands more students enrolled starting out the school year. What do you say to parents and students about checking their work, assessing their work? This is a new realm for them. How is that done with the Online Academy?
First thing, the pep talk is make sure they structure that student's day. We are creatures of habit by nature. It is so important that if you are going to be a full online learner, that you establish some structure in that student's schedule. Some routines are established so that it becomes a daily routine for them to go through those online courses. With that being said, once that's established, there will be progress reports that come out for completion. They will get emailed basically a report of how their student is doing. We will do our best to give a grade equivalency so that they know if they've completed a certain amount of online coursework, what does that translate to for their potential grade in that course. So we will give them that information. They will have an idea of where they stand and what their learning means at those certain points of time with Online Academy.
Okay. Moving on, talking about special education. We had one parent ask us, have all IEP and 504 building level committee meetings been able to take place to determine the plans for special education students this year?
IEPs are still being convened. They are still talking and discussing with certain parents, again, those options. But really to use Ms. Troscler's words, that's an individual case-by-case basis. Those IEPs are individualized for a reason. They are there to support a student's individual social, mental, emotional well-being. And so it really takes a school-based team and a team of special education educators to have that conversation and to determine that best placement for that student. But yes, they are still happening. As we just closed out the application Monday afternoon, they were still running those lists of names to see that they've made those contacts.
And for students with special needs, they may have other health risks as well going on. What's being done to protect them from any other issues they might have that could really put them at risk?
So again, our special education teachers, they know those students best. So again, if there is a serious concern for that student returning, that is a conversation that occurs over that student's needs in that IEP team. Otherwise, the special education team has been really mindful of how to still make sure to limit any contact that may be with that student, to make sure that student is set up in a safe space, to make sure that student is getting everything that they need to be successful in the event that they're still coming onto that campus. So again, those conversations are happening with those students.
Okay. Talking about substitute teachers right now, how is the pool looking for substitute teachers as we enter the school year?
10%.
10%.
10% in our substitute pool from where we were last year.
Which is about 740 active substitutes as of today.
Are you confident that that's enough? Are you confident that that's enough?
It's not been enough.
It's not been enough in the past.
It's not been enough in the past. We've worked to increase our pool over the last couple years, as a matter of fact. So to say that that's enough now, we encourage folks to come and join the team as a substitute. We always have a great need.
And currently, for every class that we open for substitute training, it's filling up right away. So we continue to, if it's closed, we're going to be opening up another one soon, so go ahead and apply.
How about bus drivers? Yeah, how about bus drivers too? They're going to be interacting with children a lot as well. Are there substitute bus driver positions? What are those numbers compared to years past?
We run 276 routes in a day. So 276 bus drivers run buses every single day. And currently my substitute is about the same as last year, about anywhere from 15 to 20 substitute bus drivers. So we are solid there also.
Last night the school system also made some news when it comes to technology and bridging that internet gap for so many students. I want to ask about the infrastructure and the equipment that's involved in doing that. Are you confident that there will be enough equipment to make that happen, that a student can learn virtually with either equipment from the school or personal equipment?
We were very blessed in this district that we had devices 3 through 12, one-to-one devices that put us ahead of many other districts in the state. K-2 right now, we're waiting on an order that's been backlogged. As soon as CARES Act money was available to us, we placed orders. And our district is in the same boat as many other districts, that those devices are absolutely on delayed a bit. As far as for connectivity, we have great partners in this district through the Love Our Schools initiatives. Last year, I think you all certainly remember the Love Our Schools initiatives, where we went and did some major facelifts at several of our campuses. This year, those folks came to the table in the midst of all of this planning over the summer and said, what can we do to help? And we certainly said that this connectivity issue it's bigger than just Lafayette Parish School System. I mean, it's a community-wide concern, and not just because of COVID. I think COVID brought the lack of connectivity to the forefront. However, it's been an ongoing issue where, you know, in a regular school year, where a teacher gives an assignment and some children are able to go build beautiful PowerPoints at home, and others draw on a poster board or draw on a sheet of paper. So I'm thankful, not for the pandemic, but that at least this is now on the table as something that we're going to be able to provide better equity across this district for students through the Love Our Schools partnership and what those folks are doing for this, what was passed last night, to help connect on a more long-term basis. Short-term, we have purchased routers for 45 school buses. They're referred to as smart buses that will be parked on every campus in this district, that children can get there. Those that live near a school can walk there, parents can drive them there, and they're able to work and connect there.
So they're mobile hotspots.
Correct, mobile hotspots. And I'm probably not using the correct term, but we're also installing boosters on each campus that will strengthen the Wi-Fi signal from inside the school and broadcast that out into parking lots on campuses. So, and hotspots for some of our transient students or students that live in areas that aren't able to get to those campuses. We have some of different communities and churches that are strengthening their signal, and will make those safe, filtered internet connectivity options available to kids too. So the community has stepped up. Are we perfect yet? We're not. Are we much better off than we were when we had to close schools in March? Absolutely.
You talk about safety there, and just that it's restricted what children and students are going to be able to do on these devices that are issued by the school system.
So closing the digital divide has been, again, one of our greatest challenges. But our Chromebooks that we have issued in the school system has a filter also on it. The 1,100 hotspots that we have purchased, individual hotspots, also have a filter on it also. So providing both sides.
And Ms. Trosclair, you mentioned that backlog with some of the devices. Where does that stand right now? I know last check it was about 2,000 or so devices that were backlogged. Is that still the same? Any time frame on when those?
Go ahead, Doc.
So yeah, we did look and explore other avenues as we've been constantly researching to see what else is out there, because the original plan was a Chromebook, and we know that Chromebooks are in high need, and so we were when we got the idea of how much longer it was going to be before those orders came in, we kind of started to do more research to see what other things we could use that was appropriate but also adaptable to the educational programming that we have in the district that would help distance learning and remote learning. So we did switch, and more recently we went to iPads, and so those K through 2 iPads should be in within the next 4 to 5 weeks. So that's our timeline, and it should be a good time for us to get those devices in and then get our staff and students oriented to what those devices can do and what it'll mean for them.
Are students able to just use their own family devices? Have you kind of surveyed?
And they can. This year we've started something new in Lafayette Parish that other districts have done for a few years. Bring your own device to school, where students can bring the device from home during the school day. And that'll help free up Chromebooks as well. I know that we have some of our folks that have enrolled into Lafayette Online Academy are coming from some of our private parochial schools as well as charter schools. So we want to be able to support those students as well with those who need a device.
Let's talk about hybrid learning for a second. Has that been a balancing act, trying to get the numbers even on classrooms? I know you don't want to overcrowd classrooms right now, so it's got to be a challenge looking at all the numbers.
Days, as far as for transportation, when we were tossing around the different ways to split buses and stay within those maximum group sizes on buses, the split of even and odd addresses worked out
Perfectly.
Almost perfectly.
Perfectly.
Yeah.
We recognize, however, that in a school setting, it may not work out quite as much. So our principals have discretion along with their counselors and school staff to balance classes once we get started. And we'll leave that in their hands. But yes, they'll balance to make sure that we're staying within those group maximum sizes.
And that's one real, like, again, when we talk about the LOA deadline, it's really important to have this pausing point of enrollment so that we could do this balancing, so that our schools have time to juggle those master schedules and determine the equity in class sizes across the board in each one of those classes. So this pausing point will allow us to make sure that we're even in those
It's a
split
particular
classes.
challenge for high schools where
Correct.
you have so many electives. So it'll be our high school administrators that I think will have the most work to do to make sure that those are balanced.
ma'am.
That you don't have 2 kids on one day and 20 on another
And then you
day.
have to remember, you can't just balance that. You have to go back to the transportation piece, because your bus can only be at 50% maximum. So there's so many pieces of the puzzle to get it balanced, that exactly that pause was so needed to be able to get the balance correct.
The feedback from our parents, however, in helping with the transportation piece has been tremendous.
Yes.
We've had many say that they are more than willing to do transportation to and from school so that our buses can run at the requirement.
Correct.
You mentioned electives. That makes me think sporting events, and a big part of high school, that environment is sports. How is that moving forward? Are there any plans? Are those still in the works? What's going on?
Still in the works. We did have what I feel is some very responsible workouts this summer. Our athletic director, Coach Jeffers, along with all of our coaches at our high school levels, did a tremendous job of building safe protocols for practices, and I think that's why we've had a great deal of success with that this summer. But there's still guidance that's coming down from LHSAA.
And other electives, music, art, those are typically hands-on activities, hands-on subjects. Are those able to happen amid the pandemic?
Well, the same thing with, the performing arts with band and singing and some of those things. In phase 2, we're still restricted and we're still limited. However, for like band, I know right now they're practicing some marching. They're getting outside and they're practicing some different things. Things that, like percussion, that don't require actually blowing into an instrument or anything, or things like that. They've been able to practice and kind of get back into those routines. It's important to know too, though, with like the arts and visual arts, even if we go blended, virtual, whatever the environment, whatever the phase may call on, there's still some research involved, there's still some studying involved, so there's still learning that has to take place through teacher interaction and good sound instruction, and that is across the board. And we've even used, we've tried to get innovative with that too. Ms. Guidry, our specialist for arts, she found something called smart music that allowed a digital performance piece. So if the student is at home and having to practice remotely or from their house, that band director or that choir director can hear how they perform at home and assign things through smart music and give them another platform for them to perform. So it has forced us to be creative. It has forced us to be innovative, but our people have risen to that challenge.
Okay. Starting the school year on a hybrid level, parents need to be prepared, though that could change.
Anytime. It absolutely could change on any given day. We don't, know when a class, a school, or a district does a complete shutdown and goes virtual. So we've mentioned that to our parents in some of our communication to make sure they have contingency plans for those things. It's a very, very fluid, ever-evolving situation. Unfortunately, I believe it's going to be like that. I think all of 2021 will look very much different than what it has in the past, but it's going to take all of us as a school community to understand that all of us are navigating through this for the first time. We will continue to do what's best for safety while keeping in mind the importance of education. I read a report the other day that really, as an educator, just really concerned me was the fact that when we return, we've always known of something called the summer slide, where kids lose skills over the course of a regular summer. Well, this is much longer than a summer, so some of the data released by this education group was that, some of our students are going to come back and very well be a year behind. We have to get kids back in front of their teachers as soon as possible. There is nothing, there's not a computer or anything that takes the place of a high-quality, effective classroom teacher. So we've made safety protocols a priority because we feel that's the way that we're going to be able to keep our schools open, is putting safety at the top of the list to keep folks healthy.
Let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about mental health. This is such a stressful time for so many, for teachers, for students. What's available for counseling for students or teachers, because it is such a challenging time?
Screeners, I'll let Dr. Rabelais speak to that a little bit. We've done some trauma informed training over the course of the summer, and we'll continue that.
Right now, yeah. Our faculties are actually going through trainings right now. Tomorrow afternoon, there's all of our faculties will be going through the ACERS training and some trauma-based relational interventions that are available. So, yeah, our campuses across the board right now are going through some of that same training.
And actually, our SROs that support our system, our school resource officers will actually be on our campus receiving the same training tomorrow to provide extra support.
We thought it was important that anyone on a campus be able to better recognize when a student's response is not out of being disrespectful, perhaps out of the social emotional realm. So we wanted our SRO officers trained along with our counselors, along with our school staffs. Our bus drivers need to be trained too, because sometimes those are the first people that can help de-escalate some situations. So our students, I am absolutely aware of the fact that there will be some that will come with some emotional needs, getting them back into some safe environments will be really good for them. But we're going to do the training so that we can recognize students who need that support.
And to answer your other question, we've always done academic screeners as part of our year. That's always been so that you know what kids have deficiencies and what content areas and what you need to address those academic needs. For this year, something that the state had put out there and suggested and had given us some vendors and ideas for was basically a social emotional screener. And so basically, after a certain amount of time, our teachers are going to get to know kids during those first 3, 4, 5 weeks of just seeing them every other day, just having that conversation. And the beauty of a blended, the positive of that is your smaller classroom. So what was once a 24, 25 student ratio is now down to 12, 13. So they'll build some relationships really fast with those teachers, really, really fast. And then after that certain time period, our teachers will have basically a survey that they'll go through with students that will assess their social and emotional well-being at that point. And then there's some additional wraparound services that can be provided, whether it's through social workers, outside agencies, counselors, on-site counseling, and mental health well-being services that can be provided. So a lot of work to be done there, but that's part of educating the whole child. Our teachers have always done that. Our administrators have always done that. It's just going to be a little bit more formalized this year.
There may be more families dealing with it this year. If a student does need some help, what is the process like? Is it dealt with at school, or is it dealt with at school with family and input? How does it work?
Yes, absolutely. Our school counselors, our teachers do a great job of reaching out to parents and connecting sometimes those families with outside agencies that can offer some additional support.
And so, Jim, I just wanted to piggyback. You also asked about teachers and staff and what emotional support we have for them. And actually, through the Lafayette Parish System, we offer an employee assistance program where each employee, staff member, cafeteria worker, bus driver, doesn't matter what role you play, that we offer free counseling services through our EAP program. And that's through our insurance department.
Available to all employees.
It's all employees.
Many of us know someone who's been affected by COVID-19, and that could very well continue into the school year. Not to be morbid, but there's a chance either a teacher or a student could get sick, or even worse. What sort of counseling is available? God forbid that's the case.
So it has happened in the past, not through COVID, but we have lost students, wake up on a morning and a student has passed away over the weekend, or a teacher. And our counseling department, our student services, have a remarkable team that pulls in counselors from other schools, goes into the school and provides days of support if that's what it takes.
Free counseling.
Free
all of those things.
counseling. They bring in counselors from other schools, and free counseling for their parents, teachers, students. So we already have that plan
And
set
they
up.
remain there as long as needed.
That's correct.
Has the school system been affected by COVID? Have you heard of any teachers, employees, anything?
That have reported, yes.
I know we covered a lot of ground here today, but there are always new questions coming up. We've heard from parents who are frustrated because they can't get all of the answers to their questions. But moving forward, are there any plans in place that there might be a streamlined process for getting questions answered?
Those are live now that folks can submit to. We'll do another push out, another communication about that process. But in the same way that when schools closed, we had an FAQ link on our website that people could post their questions, and then we get our answers and respond to those. But I understand it's the same situation that we've been in as a district staff, and it's not to blame the state or anyone else. They were in the same position as we were, where everyone was just trying to get answers to so many questions. We have so many more answers now than we did. But we'll continue to reach out to authorities to help guide us through all of this.
And these meetings with the Department of Health, those continue, you said every week?
Partnerships with our community health leaders have definitely committed to as many times that I need to speak to them, at least a minimum of once a week. And that is such an important collaboration moving forward. And staying, Louisiana Department of Health released something on July 20th for students and teachers and faculty, and then changed it on July 28th. So knowing that that is going to be fluid also, but the partnership that we have created is a remarkable partnership with our local health authorities, and they are committed to work with us.
And then our Zoom conferences with state health officials continue on a regular
Absolutely.
basis as well.
How about parent involvement? You mentioned Zoom. I wonder, will that be utilized to have conversations between teachers and parents?
Use of technology through this to where we're not even, I think, going to have to pull folks off of campus as much as we used to, because we've learned that we can do so much through the use of technology. But there may very well be where an SBLC meeting or a teacher-parent conference is happening in a different way than it's happened in the past.
Open houses.
We've
All
already
those
talked
types of
about that,
things.
meet and greets, yeah.
Orientation, all of those things.
Our
Absolutely.
schools right now have been hosting and sending out to their virtual orientations, which they're doing a tremendous job
Absolutely.
of providing parents and students the information that they need, just on a different platform.
Okay. Well, any final thoughts as we wrap this up? I know this is uncharted territory. It's really unprecedented what's going on. What's your final message to parents who, just like so many, have so much anxiety about all this?
That we are absolutely going to continue to do everything in our power and authority to make our schools safe teaching and learning environments for students, and that it's going to take the school community as a whole to pull together and to make those things work for our students. I ask again, like I did just last week, that this community join us in doing the responsible things, wearing a mask, social distancing, limiting gatherings, so that we can keep our kids in school and keep them safe.
On that note, we'll end it. Thank you so much for your time, Ms. Trosclair, Dr. Rabelais, and Ms. Gardner. Thank you very much. And everybody, this conversation is going to continue over the next few weeks, I'm sure. For more back-to-school resources, we have that posted for you over at ketc.com, back to school.